deep state accountable. We're in this together, we fight for our country. No spin, no cover-ups, just the hard truth. Together we enter the golden age. This is your front line, this is our America. Today we are watching the Watchers.
Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. And welcome back. I hope your week is unfolding beautifully and your Thursday has been filled with accomplishments because tomorrow is Friday. We're excited about that. It's not quite here and we've got business to attend to before it arrives, and we are jam-packed today. So thank you for being here and for joining us. Quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll get into it. But you can see we've got some immigration affairs here, including this standing order that came out of the District of Maryland, which is just a blanket order, a standing order that says deportations cannot happen for everybody as long as they do something and they file a petition. It's going to just be stopped. And we'll go through it because we got actually 3 different districts we're going to look into today. It's almost like these judges are colluding to insurrect the executive branch. But we'll take a look at what's happening in Maryland. As you can see here, we'll look at Massachusetts because yesterday in our second segment, we were going through this case and we were waiting for this from the judge. We didn't have it at the conclusion of yesterday's show. But now we have it, and this judge has also gone wild. So we know that they deported a bunch of people out of our country, and this judge is basically saying, you got to give them due process and maybe even bring them back. And so we'll read through what this order says because it's wild. And remember, many of these people have already had, maybe all of them, have already had orders of removal. In other words, they're allowed to be deported, but the judge is extending them due process plus because they're better than us. So we'll go through that. We'll also look at what's happening here in the other district of southern Texas, because this judge is also saying you're deficient and I want answers. I want affidavits. I want declarations. I want all of the Trump officials to come in here and explain themselves to the new president, which apparently is this judge, Keith Ellison, out of Texas. So we'll come back on that. We also saw this story of this Homeland Security Division explaining to us that this state representative called Afton Ben apparently is following Tennessee Highway Patrol around and helping them or interfering with their investigations of illegals. So we'll come back on that story. And then we'll hear from Caroline Levitt, who explained things very appropriately for all to see today from the White House press briefing room. Then we'll turn our attention to what's going on with DOGE because they submitted on the emergency docket in the Supreme Court this battle versus the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. We know who those people are. Those are Norm Eisen's folks. That's CREW, C-R-E-W. And so Elon is asking the Supreme Court to come in here and stop Norm Eisen's group from getting access to a bunch of discovery that the lower level judge ordered be provided. So we'll go through that. You can see D. John Sauer submitted this one in here. We'll hit the highlights on this that went up to the Supreme Court before we hear from Rubio on why the CREW organizations, right? Why are they so upset with DOGE? Well, it's stuff like this, because we are taking back control of our government. So we'll go through that. Then we'll have an update on this lunatic spitting lib who is yanking her dog around, not being charged with animal abuse for yanking that dog around, but she did get charged for assaulting Ed Martin. And you can see this woman right here has been charged, a criminal complaint now filed against her. Her name is Emily Gabriella Summer. We'll see what the facts in this one say because we got some nice photographs here. They went through, they zoomed in. She was being very aggressive about this. She was even posting this stuff on the internet, basically trolling Ed Martin, saying, "Hey, Ed, it's me. I'm the one who spat on you." We'll go through the criminal complaint against her and see what's coming up next in that case. Before we turn our attention to this other case, this is another Norm Eisen case. Remember that they were coming out and attacking Ed Martin because Ed Martin's been doing some interviews and explaining just how corrupt the prior government was and how corrupt the Democratic Party is. And so Norm sued with the Jane and John Does. And now the Department of Justice is responding, saying, Ed Martin is a stand-up dude. And then we'll talk about more here with this shooting at the Jewish Museum, because there was some reaction to that today. And even CNN is having a hard time trying to figure out what to do about this, because we've got spitting libs, we've got shooting libs, shooting people in the backs all over the place. And CNN is trying to figure out what to do about it all. So it is going to be just a beautiful stream, my friends. Glad that you're here and joining us. Hopefully you like that intro tune, little AI-generated tune. Your boy was having some fun with that. But it's going to be a great stream. We had an amazing members-only stream this morning. Thank you for becoming a member. Thanks for supporting our work here. Could not do any of this without you. We're very grateful for your membership. We try to deliver for our members. We do members-only streams. We do shows on Saturday. We do after parties. So come check it out. Thanks for becoming a member and supporting our work. Grab the member stream from this morning, and we'll see you on the member stream tomorrow morning as well. All right, so without any further ado, let's just get into the meat and potatoes on the day, because these judges are going wild. This judge has gone wild, and he's not alone. There's a bunch of other judges who are joining in on this onslaught against the president and the American people. But this one is raising some additional eyebrows because it is a standing order. It's not really even applicable to a particular case. It's just a judge called George L. Russell III, who's the U.S. District Judge out of Maryland, who just decided this is how we're going to handle all deportation cases moving forward, and writes the following, saying, "The All Writs Act permits courts to issue all writs necessary to aid their respective jurisdiction and agreeable to the usages and principles of law." So we have a lot of power to control our jurisdiction. Saying further, the Supreme Court also recognizes a limited judicial power to preserve the court's jurisdiction or maintain the status quo by injunction pending review of an agency's actions. And so the judge is just saying, on my own, accordingly, in order to preserve existing conditions and the potential jurisdiction of this court over pending matters, while this court determines the scope of its authority and to grant the relief thereof, and to ensure that the illegals are able to participate in the adjudication of their requests for habeas relief, including participation in court proceedings and access to legal counsel, all the things, and to ensure that we're able to do our jobs, essentially, that we can have in-court testimony, and to ensure the government also has an opportunity to brief all these things, this judge just comes out on his own and says, it is hereby ordered that the District of Maryland, by us, that upon the filing of a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, right? So when an illegal comes in, they've been marked for removal, they are now being deported. They say, I'm being wrongfully deported. And by the way, we've got several different competing laws here in place. We've got the immigration proceedings, where many of them have already been adjudicated. They've had their due process, they've challenged their deportation, and they lost. Now they're being removed, right? So now the immigration process is over, so we're loading them up onto an airplane. Now there is another mechanism by which they can challenge their removal, just filing a writ for a petition of habeas corpus, a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, which is in an Article 3 court, not in the immigration courts, which are Article 2 courts. And so they're giving them additional due process, right? By default. If they just file it, then they're all going to be stopped. The judge doesn't even have to look at the petition. It's just done. On behalf of an alien detainee, including all those acting for them and on their behalf, so all of the ACLU gangbang lawyers as well are now included in this, are hereby enjoined and restrained. So Trump and all of the other agencies, Homeland and the rest of them, are all stopped from removing the petitioners in these cases from the continental United States or from altering their legal status, provided that the petitioner, the gangbanger's full name, have been provided to the court either in the petition or in a separate sealed filing. So it's by default. If they just file it, then it's automatic. This is what happens. This order shall be entered in every case upon its filing, and its terms shall remain in effect until 4 p.m. the second business day following the filing of the petition. So it expires unless the terms of this order are further extended by the presiding judge. So any case that comes through here is going to be handled this way. The clerk is directed to docket this order in every such case and send a copy of this order to the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland. And so I think this is going to be limited to Maryland only, right? Because this is this judge's jurisdiction in the District of Maryland, and they're only providing copies and notice to the Maryland. It looks like, actually, no. Yeah, District of Maryland. Okay, so sounds like it's just limited to this jurisdiction, but it's still just by default. Okay, so these people already have valid orders of removal. The judge says, I don't really care about that. If they file it, it's automatic. There's a stay. You can't do anything with them by default, right? So if Trump's loading them on an airplane or anything, not even a chance to respond, it's just you're stopped. Now, that was just one court. So you want to add all these together, right? Compound them. You can see what's also happening out of Massachusetts is this. They write, in this case, this is the DVD case versus U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And in this case, Homeland has already told us these people are gone. They've already loaded them up onto airplanes. They're murderers and very violent criminals who've done bad things to kids, bad things to other people that should not be here. And their cases have been adjudicated. So they had a hearing yesterday. We covered this in our second segment, but then the judge came out and issued orders and we didn't have them at the time. So the judge posted this today. So we're going to add all these up, right? It's like an onslaught of law attacks from judges. As set forth in today's hearing yesterday, the court found that Trump violated this court's preliminary injunction. And having considered the arguments of all of the attorneys here, the court hereby orders the following remedy for Trump's violations of the preliminary injunction. These people are gone. Now, each of the 6 individuals who are gangbangers must be given a reasonable fear interview in private, with the opportunity for the individual to have a lawyer of their choosing present during the interview, either in person or remotely at the individual's choosing. Okay, so this judge is going in, and we saw these people, okay? We went through them yesterday. They're bad, bad people who've already had orders of removal and they're removed. So the judge is going to reopen this. All of these murderers, or whatever their crimes are, have to have their cases reopened. They get an opportunity to have a lawyer there and present during their interview, and they get to choose everything. They're being treated essentially like royalty. Each individual must be afforded access to counsel that is commensurate with the access that they would have received had these procedures occurred within the United States before they got deported. So make sure you send over like Johnny Cochran over there, right? Including remote access where in-person access would otherwise be available. Each of these murderers must also be afforded the name and telephone number of the class counsel because they're represented by the ACLU and other class, they're a class of gangbangers, as well as access to a phone, an interpreter, and technology for the confidential transfer of documents that is commensurate with the access they would receive were they in custody actually in the border. Wild. Each individual, along with class counsel, must be given no fewer than 72 hours notice of the scheduled time for their reasonable fear interview. Should any individual raise a fear with respect to deportation to the third country that DHS determines falls short of reasonable fear? Okay, so in other words, they're going to say, hey, Homeland, give these guys another interview. Homeland's going to give them an interview and they're going to say, you're fine. You don't have reasonable fear. Oh, you got pupusas that are under attack too? All right. Yeah, so how about no, you're going back to your home country. The individual must be provided meaningful opportunity and a minimum of 15 days to seek to reopen the immigration proceedings that are already closed, that have already been adjudicated. Okay, reopen, meaning they're closed. They've already been marked for departure. This judge is going to give them a second opportunity and a second bite at the apple to then come up with a new claim called reasonable fear, right? Imagine if a judge was like giving you an alley-oop in your case, no matter what you were doing or where you were. You get charged with a crime. The judge is like, actually, you're going to get appointed all this and you're going to have to do an interview for this. And if you have that claim, then you can file it. And I'm going to make sure it's all protected through and through. It's wild. Never happens for anybody else except illegals. During that 15-day period, the individual must remain within the custody or control of Homeland and must be afforded access to counsel that is commensurate with the access that would be afforded if they were seeking to move to reopen from within the United States. So give them essentially the same exact benefits that they would get if they were still here. saying Trump and us, the American people, must provide a status report every 7 days to all 6 of these murderers who were thrown out. Should any individual move to reopen, the parties must also immediately provide a status report and continue providing status reports every 7 days until the judge is satisfied. Now, Homeland, in its discretion, may elect to provide this process to the 6 individuals either within the United States, if you want to bring them back here, or abroad, if at all relevant times, Homeland retains custody and control over the individuals in conditions commensurate with whether they were still here in the United States. Judge Brian Murphy, who is, I believe, a Biden appointee, we'll come back on that, says it reflects a remedy in light of this court's finding of a violation of its injunction. Now, we have more narrowly tailored this to be in accordance with the principles of equity. So he's going to appoint them, all lawyers, class action representation, and more. The court cautions Trump that this remedy should not be construed as setting forth a course of conduct that would constitute compliance with the preliminary injunction. And the court is not, in ordering this remedy, making any findings or conclusions that compliance with these processes before deportation would have satisfied the requirements in the first instance. So you're in trouble. You violated my order. In order to comply with the order, you have to give them a bunch of privileges, give them an attorney, give them an interview, give them 15 days to appeal all of this. It's already closed, like this, it's already done and closed, but we're going to allow you to reopen it. Now, that was just the order. Here is more from the judge. He says, at today's hearing, the court found that the defendants violated the injunction by failing to provide 6 non-citizen class members, quote, a meaningful opportunity to assert claims for protection under the Convention Against Torture before initiating removal to a third country, right? And so, again, their cases are closed. The judge wants them to reopen it. They didn't make their claims in the Convention Against Torture, under the Convention Against Torture in the first instance. But the judge is going to allow them to reopen it so that they can make those claims so that they cannot be deported. It's due process plus. They get extra due process, multiple bites at the apple because these judges are Democratic hacks. Defendants, Trump, maintain that there's ambiguity in the phrase called meaningful opportunity that started this whole controversy. They say, when the court issued the preliminary injunction, the court declined to elaborate on what a meaningful opportunity is, preferring instead to let experience show through hard cases the finer point of what is required under due process. Now, to be clear, this judge says, this is not one of those hard cases. Giving every credit to Trump, yeah, right. The non-citizens at issue had fewer than 24 hours notice and 0 business hours notice before being put on a plane and sent to a country as to which the U.S. Department of State said the following. They sent them to the South Sudan. And the State Department says, yeah, well, don't travel to the South Sudan because there's crime, kidnapping, and armed conflict. That's for American citizens. Warning, America, don't go there. It's got some problems over there. Okay, these are not American citizens. These are criminal, illegal aliens who are not just being dropped off down there. They're going down and being housed down there. But the judge is going to say, well, it's bad down there. So the people who've committed crimes in America or are identified as criminals from conduct in other countries are allowed to stay here because it's too dangerous back in their home country. As detailed on the record during today's hearing, further facts regarding the unavailability of information, the hurried and confused notice that they received, language barriers because they can't speak English, and attorney access because they don't get access to the attorneys, all compound and confirm this court's finding that no reasonable interpretation could have endorsed yesterday's events, right? So you're not treating them nicely enough. Now, nevertheless, given Trump's position that further detail would help Trump comply, the court offers the following summary. Here's what the judge says. All removals to third countries, removal to a country other than the country or countries designated during the immigration proceedings as the country of removal on the non-citizen's order of removal must be preceded by written notice to both the non-citizen, the illegal, and the illegal's counsel in a language that they can understand, with a red carpet and a cup of tea. Following notice, the individual must be given a meaningful opportunity, and look at this, a minimum of 10 days to raise a fear-based claim for claims against torture, protection prior to removal, all right? Their immigration stuff is closed. The judge is saying they get 10 more days to reopen it and file a new claim. If the non-citizen does demonstrate reasonable fear of removal, Trump must reopen the immigration proceedings and allow them to file that claim. If the non-citizen is not found to have demonstrated reasonable fear, which of course the DHS, no, it's not reasonable. Trump must provide a meaningful opportunity in 15 days for the non-citizen to seek reopening of their immigration proceedings. So no matter what Homeland finds, they get an opportunity to reopen their cases for the second time. It's lunacy. The preliminary injunction applies to just imagine if that was you. Okay, if you've been charged with a speeding ticket, actually, we didn't like that outcome. We've got a new claim. I said the cop didn't see me. Now I'm going to say the cop's radar gun was wrong. And now I'm just going to reopen the whole case again. You get a second bite at the apple because you're an illegal. Same thing happening here. Any person also, right, they're all stopped. So DHS, anybody else who's covered by this cannot remove these people. And so no defendant may avoid Trump or any Homeland or DOJ or any of them can avoid their duty by ceding responsibility to another person. So it's like Homeland, you can't give it over to DOD and then deport these people. So ordered, signed off on here by Brian Murphy, U.S. District Court Judge. And there was even more that came out today, or yesterday. So Judge Brian Murphy dropped all of this as well. Those were the two orders that we just read. And then he also said, hey, here's another electronic order about a potential additional violation of a court order. He says Trump must submit by 5 p.m. today. We'll see if it came in. Under pain and penalty of perjury, this judge has gone nuts, a declaration as to the facts and circumstances related to the removal of NM. Including but not limited. So one person, and again, these illegals are all allowed to use pseudonyms and proceed without any real scrutiny under fake names. Including but not limited to, we want a declaration, the date and time at which defendants determined that it would be impracticable, inadvisable, or impossible to remove this person to Burma. So this person's, I guess, maybe not in Burma. The bases and determination that it would be impractical, inadvisable, or impossible to remove this person to Burma, whether Trump still plans to remove this person to Burma, the bases for the determination that it was no longer impractical to remove them to Burma. So that person, it sounds like they did go to Burma, and the specific time as to when Trump determined it was no longer impossible to remove that person and what changed. So like scrutinizing every decision that has already happened in the DOJ, or in rather Homeland, and the Article 2 immigration process, all of this is due process, right? You saw it. Somebody's sitting there analyzing this person's status and where they can properly go. The judge says, I want to know everything about it. Then also says this, Trump must also submit by 5 p.m. today, we'll see if it came in, looks like they did, under pain and penalties of perjury, a declaration addressing the news reports about statements made by the South Sudan police spokesperson. Said Major General James Monday in South Sudan, he said, if these people come here, we're going to investigate them and we're going to deport them to their correct country. We're not taking them either. We're going to find out where they should be going. If they're not South Sudanese, then we're going to send them out. And the judge is saying, well, you're sending them to South Sudan because you can't send them to their original countries. So what if you send them to South Sudan and then the South Sudan government just sends them to their countries? Isn't that just kind of just violating your inability to send them to their original home country? Then the judge said, Trump must also submit a declaration that certifies the notice of the clarified injunction has been provided to all persons. Make sure everyone knows about this. This guy's going wild. And that all individuals potentially involved in the removal have been told if they don't comply with this injunction, they may be held in contempt. So make sure that you sent everybody an email as well. Then we got another declaration and another response. So these just came in. We were waiting to see if they would drop today, and here they are. So Trump responds to this, says, on May 21st, yesterday, the court ordered Trump to submit several declarations and identify the aliens on the airplane that was subject to the court's inquiries during the hearings. Now, pursuant to the court's orders, we do send in these two declarations responding to the court's request to identify the aliens, and we're working diligently to respond to your other requests as well. Here's Exhibit A. This came in from Marcos D. Charles, who is notifying the court by the deadline of what's happening. Says, all right, I'm acting assistant director with ICE, and I'm responsible for oversight of 25 offices working to efficiently execute the agency mission. I began my career with the U.S. government as a Border Patrol agent for the former, and over the time I promoted, a lot of experience. I provide this declaration based on my personal knowledge, reasonable inquiry, and more. I looked at systems, records, and databases, and portals maintained by a bunch of people. Pursuant to this court's inquiries about the individuals on the plane, I submit this declaration to inform the court of the identities and serious criminal histories of the 7 aliens at issue in the litigation on the plane. Here we go. I have personally reviewed the case of E.A.H. He's a native and citizen of Cuba. Wow. On May 11, 1999, E.A.H., who's allowed to proceed anonymously because he's better than you, everyone else gets identified in their court documents, was convicted in the 11th Circuit of Florida in the county court for robbery. Oh, robbery using a deadly weapon or firearm, attempted armed robbery, attempted second-degree murder, unlawful possession of a weapon. He's a convicted felon and was using weapons, being a prohibited possessor, robbery using a deadly weapon, and more. He was sentenced to 4 years in prison, followed by 2 years of probation. Then he was ordered removed to Cuba in 1999 by an immigration judge. Okay, ordered removed. His case is over. He doesn't get to reopen it and say, well, now it's over. Says he did not file an appeal, and his removal order became final on that date. The dude's been here since 1999. On February 6, 2007, he was convicted of another crime. 11th Judicial Circuit in Florida of, impersonating an officer, kidnapping, sentenced to 15 years in prison to be followed by 5 years of probation. The judge says this guy gets another opportunity to reopen his immigration case and challenge it again, even though this is who he is, adjudicated by our courts. Same thing happened with JMR. This guy says, I personally reviewed the case of JMR, who also gets to proceed with a pseudonym. Also from Cuba, he was also convicted of arson in the second degree, 15 years of probation. JMR was also convicted of cocaine trafficking, 3 years in prison for that. Then possession of a firearm by convicted felon, 4 years in prison. Judge loves this dude, wants him to come back. He was convicted in the 7th Circuit of Florida, Judicial Circuit, the state level crimes, 364 days in prison, and then also convicted again, January 12, 2022, most recent crime, attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. Amazing. Now, same thing with TN. TN is from the Laos People's Democratic Republic, Laos. 1995, he was convicted in California. First-degree murderer running around America. And attempted murder, second-degree robbery, sentenced to life in prison without parole. Conviction records and media reporting on his convictions show that on May 16th, he robbed, 1994, this dude TN, who you don't even know who he is because he gets protection. It robbed and eliminated a 64-year-old German tourist and injured her husband near a scenic outlook in California. I'm sure you can look that up. On March 2nd, TN was also resentenced by the same court to life with the possibility of parole following a change in California law regarding minor offenders. So they're going to let him out. And, or maybe not, but on July 12th, 2023, he was ordered removed to Laos by an immigration judge, and this dude waived his appeal, okay? So now, the judge, Murphy, is going to give him a second opportunity to come back to America and is going to hand them, on a silver platter, the legal argument to make that they'll absolutely make. Why wouldn't they? You get a second shot at it. You get to redo your whole trial again? Make a whole new set of arguments? Oh, it's going to be tortured in Laos. And then, regardless of what Homeland finds, they get to fight it and they get extra time, 10 to 15 days to do it, whichever way it goes. It's crazy. JMG, another case, as I personally reviewed this case. JMG is a citizen of Mexico. He's from there. Oh, good. January 11, 2005, he murdered somebody, second degree. 25 years in prison. 2005, he was already ordered removed to Mexico by a judge. That's due process. It's already been adjudicated. The case is closed. Waived appeal. You don't get to just come back and file an appeal way after the fact. Try that for any criminal case if you're an American citizen. There's a process called post-conviction relief, which is an extremely high standard that you almost never get, all right? And these illegals are now, who are murderers, are now just getting a second bite at the apple. Premium American experience, due process plus. They don't even have to pay for it, too. It's amazing. Recently, he was identified and admitted to being a member of a criminal organization. In fact, when incarcerated, someone incurred multiple disciplinary violations, some of these gang activity in the jails. Same thing with KM. This person's a citizen of Burma. This is the one the judge is maybe upset about, saying in 2019, KM was convicted in Iowa of lascivious acts with a child, sentenced to no more than 10 years of incarceration. Yeah, great. KM fondled or touched a child and performed an act with a person under the age of 12 or 13 years of age. So just make sure that you understand that the judge who wants these people back in our country is this dude right here, Brian E. Murphy. Loves these people, wants to give them multiple times to reopen their cases, even though due process is already concluded. They should be thrown out. On September 23rd, Cam was ordered removed by an immigration judge. It's over. The 2023 Board of Immigration Appeals dismissed his appeal. It's over. He could have raised his claims against torture in that case. He didn't do it. NM. I have personally reviewed the case of NM. I think this is the one the judge was upset about. A native and citizen of Burma. 2020, NM was convicted in Nebraska. Attempted assault, the bad kind, the worst kind, in first degree in violation of revised statutes. Was sentenced from 12 to 14 years. Tried to penetrate a victim without consent when he knew or should have known that the victim was mentally or physically incapable of resisting or apprising the nature of the conduct. Okay? NM, on August 2023, ordered removed by an immigration judge and waived the appeal. Doesn't matter. The judge is going to invoke an appeal for them. TTP, similarly a native of Vietnam. 2001, TTP was convicted in Washington of murder, first degree, 264 months in prison. Was convicted also of assault in the second degree, 50 months on that count. Then in 2009 was ordered removed to Vietnam by an immigration judge and waived appeal. All these people are bad people. They had due process, their cases were concluded, and they got deported. Now the judge has said you can't do that. Or now that they're gone, you have to give them another opportunity to contest their removal, even though they've already been ordered removed, as is declared by ICE. Right here. Thank you, Marcos D. Charles, for explaining that. And here's Exhibit B. He also says in another declaration, short, says, I am acting assistant director for field operations and enforcement, and I am aware that I have oversight over 25 offices. I began my career, I was promoted a bunch, and I provide this declaration based on my knowledge of our databases and more. Now, this court has ordered us to address, the judge said, the news reports about statements made by the South Sudan police spokesman called Monday Inoka that if migrants arrive in South Sudan, they would be investigated and redeported to their correct country if found not to be South Sudanese, and whether this implicates the prohibition against chain refoulement, right? So you send them to Sudan, and then Sudan sends them to some other country, and they're not supposed to go to that other country, and so you kind of bypassed the prohibition. The acting assistant director, Marco, says, well, the first I heard of this statement was from you during the course of this hearing on Monday. Now, we lack any personal knowledge about whether migrants to which he refers are related to aliens whom DHS has negotiated with the government of South Sudan to accept. So I don't know. You're talking about some police spokesperson? Well, I don't know. We negotiated with their government, so we don't know. Now, regardless, review of individual immigration cases of the aliens on the plane that you're asking about, Judge. They write so-and-so redacted, so can't see it. And so revealed that none were granted withholding of removal under the Immigration or Nationality Act. Okay, so it's like not even close to a Kilmar situation, or withholding or deferral of removal under the regulations implementing the Conventions Against Torture to any country, including their country of nationality. Therefore, based on my understanding, Judge, the principle of chain refoulement does not apply to them. I declare under penalty of perjury the following is true and correct. And I really would like to see what that redacted sentence there said. But in other words, we've checked. There is no Convention Against Torture problem. And so you can't recreate this claim for them to try because their first attempt failed. Good filings there from the Trump team. Now, let's make sure we are not seeing anything else on this. And where did this one come from? Let's see. That was a declaration. Oh, okay. So this one also hit today. Emergency motion for a TRO and preliminary injunction by OCG. So this looks like it's another illegal. Yeah. So this illegal responded. So let's just confirm who this dude is. So OCG is, let's see if he's in here. He might not be on this one. JMR, TN. Do we see an OCG in here? Okay, so he's not articulated in this filing, so it might be some other person. He says, I'm over the age of 18. Right now, I'm living in Guatemala, living alone in a house my sister owns. I don't stay in any of the places I used to stay. Gay people like me are targeted in Guatemala. Oh, man. So I guess America has to take you or something? This produces constant fear and panic. My mother and cousins are helping me out, but it's dangerous for me. I feel fear and danger anytime I go out. For me, it's not easy. The people who targeted me before know who I am, and they've shown me twice before what they're capable of. I don't want to get attacked again. The first days when I got back, I had to go out and get groceries because I had nothing. And just then, one of those who had threatened me before passed on a motorcycle. I was out with a hat on, and I don't think they spotted me, but I saw them. They are out here, and I don't feel safe in Guatemala. In any moment, I could go out and I could be walking and they could recognize me. I have so much panic because of this, says this gay Guatemalan. When I leave, I wear hats and try to camouflage myself so no one recognizes me. But living a normal life is impossible here. Now, I can't be gay here, which means I cannot be myself. I cannot express myself and I'm not free. I feel so vulnerable. I can't be a person who can walk in the streets, who gets a coffee, who buys groceries because someone might hit or threaten me. Gosh. Talk about dramatic. Gosh. Anything could happen to me on the street. My family is always warning me to be careful. Be careful. The situation here has been so difficult. Since I've been back, I have to be more private. I can't be the same as always before because I'm gay. My experiences the last time I was targeted and threatened say the police don't do anything. They do not support our community. That is, people who are not heterosexual and who are gay like me. There is so much discrimination. The police whisper and joke behind our backs. They do not ever support us. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the police should have their rainbow police cruisers driving around Guatemala over the BLM rainbow street paintings. I don't want to be another number, another statistics. I don't want to happen to me again. There's no justice for me here. So you got to come to America? Like we have to accept you because you're uncomfortable being gay in Guatemala? Like that's the standard now? What is this? I never go visit my mom because people know she's my mom. I don't want to expose us to the risk, so I see her as little as possible. My mother doesn't want to expose myself too much or be in the streets too much. It's not easy for me nor my family. Okay, so that's wild. That's even lamer than the pupusa excuse. You're afraid to go to the grocery store? That's why we have to bring you back to our country or something like that? Sorry. Yeah, you go fight for your diversity down in Guatemala. Reform your own country. Go deal with those bigots down there or whatever you think they are. And good luck down there. And why is this the standard for us even? Why is this even filed and considered? Ridiculous. All right. But I'm sure the judge is like, wow, it's going to be dangerous down there. You're right. You do need more rainbow flags down there. And so we're going to bring it back to America. Who cares? So that's going on. Now, that's just one other. That was wild. I didn't expect that one. You'd expect a little bit more heft. Like his attorney would say, you got to put something in there like actual harm. Like just because you have this unfounded, unreasonable fear of going to the grocery store and somebody looked at you on a motorcycle one time, That's your articulable, reasonable fear? Are you joking? All right, guess not. So this is also coming out of Texas. Now in Texas, you'd expect a little bit better than this. But here, these people, this guy called Widmer Josnider Aljaves Sanguino, at least we got his name. This one's not filed under a pseudonym like the other judges, suing Kristi Noem. And this judge came back out and issued a bizarre order that is in alignment with the other orders. This judge is called Keith Ellison, U.S. District Judge as well. And here is what they wrote for us here. They said, having reviewed the defendant's May 20th notice and declaration, the court orders Trump to file a supplemental declaration no later than May 23rd, 2025, saying, here's the problem. Trump's declaration gave us no meaningful information about this guy. This judge wants to know where this guy is. Aljaves Sanguino, or the legal basis for his detention. The embassy purportedly reached out to El Salvadorian authorities, but the court is not satisfied on where this dude is. So the judge is ordering Trump again. Watch this. Look, it's like mandating that they engage in foreign policy over this illegal. A declaration describing all actions taken by Trump and the embassy, including the names and El Salvadorian officials. And I want copies of all written communications. Crazy. Give me your whole file. I want a timeline of follow-up attempts to escalate if you didn't get a response from El Salvador. I also want the specific El Salvadorian law cited as justification for Sanguino, like this judge is going to review El Salvador law now. Statute, name, article number. I want the English translation. I want the verification of its applicability to Venezuelans as well. The government, you also want the analysis of this law's compliance with its own international obligations as well. I also want all agreements or contracts between the U.S. and El Salvador about the transfer, detention, and treatment of individuals, criteria for who you select to El Salvador, the expected duration of detention in El Salvador, the factual and legal basis for removal, your authority. Look at this. Date, time, manner of the handover, everything. I want the last known contact of the U.S. government or any agent, and I want to know about any due process afforded to Aljaves as well. Signed here by Keith Ellison, demanding everything from the Trump administration. It's like, where is that benefit of, comedy and friendliness and the presumption of good faith between the branches? Instead, these judges, you've seen 3 of them today, coming out fighting for illegals who've already had adjudication, who've already been processed and deported in accordance with the law and the Constitution. But state level lawmakers, including this woman, like this Tennessee person called Afton Bain, was providing aid to criminals earlier this month. She's a Nashville Democrat, and apparently this woman seen here was live streaming this whole thing, following the Tennessee Highway Patrol around during their immigration enforcement opportunities, just saying, I'm just going to come in and interfere. DHS described Bain and colleagues as supporting sanctuary city politicians, saying this administration is not playing games with these people. People doxing our officers and impeding ICE operations are siding with cartels, human traffickers, and violent criminals, saying while sanctuary politicians are fighting for criminal illegal aliens, Trump and Noem are fighting for the victims of illegal alien crime. Right here is another Democrat, state-level lawmaker in Nashville, Tennessee, posting a 15-minute video, according to this representative, stalking Tennessee Highway Patrol, openly admitting they're trying to stall law enforcement from stopping illegal aliens, right? The judges are fighting for them. State representatives are fighting for them. And now they're impeding and trying to stall legitimate law enforcement. Here's this lunatic.
Okay, this is great. We've got our girl squad and we're bullying the ICE vehicles and state troopers. So this is like, this is a win.
How exciting for you.
Your favorite blonde state rep. Her phone's always at 1%. I think my superlative is most likely to always have her phone at 1%. So,
Could you text that?
no,
Oh,
I'm still here. Okay, so we're waiting for my phone to charge. Let me send this to Emily and the girl. There we go. Okay. Did he let them go? Oh, people.
Us?
Yeah, they think we were arrested.
Um,
My live cut out. Yeah, well, it's because your girl can't keep her phone charged. So they're probably running our information. Nikki, tell us what's transpired tonight.
So we found the ICE and the THP people. I did not put makeup on because this was not
Okay,
planned.
then I'll put it.
Oh, gosh. that's enough of those two. So those are Democrats who are being Democrats and representing other Democrats in America. That's what they look and sound and act like. And we'll see how that works out for them when the American people see their behavior on display. But we've got Homeland Security Secretary Noem fighting to get illegals out of our country. And Caroline Leavitt was explaining what is actually happening here with these people and why they have to be deported and why lunatic partisan judges are trying to stop that and why that is countervailing to the American people and our country.
The Department of Homeland Security conducted a deportation flight from Texas to remove vicious illegal criminals in the United States. All of these individuals were sent or are trying to be sent to a third country. And President Trump promised to get vicious illegal alien murderers, rapists, and pedophiles like these out of our country, and he is trying to deliver on this promise. But no matter how upset this makes Democrats, we will continue to deport these monsters to keep Americans safe. And here are the heinous individuals who were on that flight. A Cuban national, convicted of homicide, armed robbery, false impersonation of an official, kidnapping, and robbery strong arm. A Cuban national convicted of attempted first-degree murder with a weapon. A citizen of Laos convicted of first-degree murder and robbery. A Mexican national convicted of second-degree murder. A citizen of South Sudan convicted of robbery and the possession of a firearm. A citizen of Burma convicted of lascivious acts with a child less than 12 years old. A citizen of Burma convicted of first-degree sexual assault involving a victim mentally and physically incapable of resisting. It's disgusting. And a Vietnamese national convicted of first-degree murder. Now, a liberal activist district court judge in the city of Boston, Massachusetts, is trying to force the President of the United States to bring these monsters back to our country. Judge Brian Murphy is ordering the Department of Homeland Security to give these illegal criminals 15 days to reopen their immigration cases with access to phones and attorneys. Every single one of these individuals, I will add, had final orders of removal from our country. And now Judge Murphy is forcing federal officials to remain in Djibouti for over 2 weeks, threatening our U.S. diplomatic relationships with countries around the world, and putting these agents' lives in danger by having to be with these illegal murderers, criminals, and rapists. This is completely absurd. Judge Brian Murphy is not the Secretary of State. He is not the Secretary of Defense or the Commander-in-Chief. He is a district court judge in Massachusetts. He cannot control the foreign policy or the national security of the United States of America, and to suggest otherwise is being completely absurd. According to new reporting about this judge, he's a registered Democrat in Massachusetts who during his Senate confirmation hearings failed to disclose his ties to a radical left-wing organization that claimed the word illegal to describe illegal aliens was inherently prejudicial. This massive judicial overreach by Judge Murphy is part of the same opposition our administration has faced since day one. Radical left-wing judges are egregiously trying to stop President Trump from using his core constitutional powers as head of the executive branch and commander-in-chief. These judicial activists want to unilaterally stop President Trump from deporting foreign terrorists and keeping the American people safe. Nearly 80 million Americans re-elected this president to deport illegal criminals from our homeland, and polling consistently shows that 90% of Americans want illegal alien criminals, especially those with final orders of removal from our country, who have chosen to continue to stay here illegally. Americans want these people sent home.
And we need to keep talking about this so that these judges are exposed. They're hiding behind the acronyms, the pseudonyms, GCP or whatever it is, right? And if you can't see who these people are and what crimes they've committed in our country, then the due process argument, the follow the Constitution, all of that stuff carries weight. People listen to, well, we want due process in America, don't we? They got it. They've got full immigration proceedings. They had opportunities to appeal. They've been ordered removed, and these judges are now giving them extra process for people who are some of the worst criminals in our country. Those judges should not be allowed to escape that reality. Judge Murphy wants child abusers to have extra due process. Why is that? Maybe he'll answer that at some point, but we'll see what Trump does with this. We'll keep our eye on this case and the others. I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of appeals. The Supreme Court could come down and settle a lot of this stuff, but they haven't yet. So we'll be here. Thanks for continuing to join us, and thanks for subscribing as our coverage here continues. All right, we're not done yet. We got some other cases to talk about. We're going to the Supreme Court now and taking a look at this one. An emergency filing in the Supreme Court coming to stop CREW, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. This is Norm Eisen's group, and they have launched a full-on lawfare attack against DOGE. And at this case, at this status right now, they're engaged in a battle over discovery. They want access to DOGE records, DOGE files, everything within the DOGE agency that's been set up. They want copies of it. And the lower level court granted them access to this, right? So the lawfare is winning, so to speak, at the lower level courts. But now D. John Sauer submitted this one in to the Chief Justice of the United States. That's John Roberts. And John Roberts has asked for a response to this by noon on Friday. So we're going to see what happens with the Supreme Court if they grant us a late Friday afternoon stay or what comes next. But this was a big one, hit in to the Supreme Court of the United States regarding the DOGE service filed by D. John Sauer, the Solicitor General of the United States. And they write to the Supreme Court, they say, listen, Supreme Court judges, and talking to you in particular, John Roberts, we're here asking for a stay of the orders issued by the District of Columbia. And we request an immediate stay of this because there will be serious problems if we don't get it. Here's what happened. The DOGE service is an advisory body within the executive office of the president. Now, the president, in various executive orders, has tasked DOGE with providing recommendations to him and to federal agencies on important policy matters. And so given that, it is exempt from FOIA. It's an executive agency, but it is something that gives recommendations on policy matters. And so the law says, under 5 U.S. Code 552, this is a matter of law. It doesn't apply. You can't get access to materials. But the district court below ordered DOGE to submit to sweeping and intrusive discovery just to determine if DOGE is even subject to FOIA in the first place. The judge is like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess I have to get the discovery to see what DOGE does in order to determine if you can get DOGE stuff through FOIA. Now, that order turns FOIA on its head. It gives the respondent a win on the merits. The judge is like, well, I'm not going to give them access to FOIA records, but I'm going to give them access to discovery so that they can prove their case, so that they can show that they need FOIA records. Like, well, isn't that just giving them access to the records? No, but they want it through FOIA. No, they want the records. You're going to give that to them. Yeah, but not through FOIA. This is just the discovery portion of the case. Like, what? That order clearly violates the separation of powers, Supreme Court. It subjects the presidential advisory body to intrusive discovery and threatens the confidentiality and the candor of its advice. And here's why. To begin, it's long settled that presidential advisory bodies are not within FOIA. And it's also well settled that whether presidential advisory are, in fact, advisory depends on the contours of their legal authority. What can they do? Can they make decisions, or are they just making recommendations? Likewise, for example, the Chief of Staff, National Security Advisor, and a bunch of others would all be subject to FOIA on the theory that advisors' recommendations tend to be taken very seriously. Now, that is an untenable result, right? We want candid, confidential advice in the executive branch. That's what the president demands. But the decisions below and in the Court of Appeals, they're all treating this as an agency. It's not. DOGE is not an agency. It's an advisory body and not subject to FOIA. Saying that deeply flawed legal theory, John Roberts, prompted the district court down below to order intrusive expedited discovery of swaths of internal DOGE documents, details about employees and how they spend their time, DOGE's non-public plans to access government information, all to decide the question of whether it's exempt from FOIA. It's weird. It's like you get access to the things that you want. You don't even need FOIA. The order also requires a deposition of the advisory body head, called Amy Gleason. And on top of all of that, the order also invades DOGE's deliberative process by requiring them to produce all the recommendations that it made to agencies, even if they were purely advisory. So I want records of everything you told to Rubio and to Nome and to Bissett and more. In other words, the district court effectively granted their FOIA request, giving them everything they want and considering DOGE to be an agency. That approach would permit them to do an end run around FOIA and evade the long-established presidential protections for presidential advisors, saying to the Supreme Court, if you nullify FOIA's solicitude and protection of presidential advisors and order roving discovery into their recommendations, that's going to be an untenable affront on the separation of powers. This court has held that discovery against the presidential advisory body should be avoided wherever possible, and that saddling those advisors with line-by-line inquisitions is impermissible. But the district court did just that. Allowed discovery against the presidential advisory body, a lot of which involves pre-decisional, deliberative, and privileged information, much of it serving no legitimate purpose at all. Instead, it burdens us in the same way that Congress sought to avoid. Now, if discovery that was ordered is extraordinarily overbroad and intrusive anyways, it reaches the advisory body's most sensitive workings. By requiring a deposition of the DOGE head and much more, it's going to distract from DOGE. We're working to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse. And we've been raising privileges that shouldn't be undermined. Now, the district court initially issued a stay of their order, but then a separate panel in D.C. lifted the stay. So the Court of Appeals stopped this from happening and then reversed itself. Pursuant to the subsequent scheduling order, we must now respond by May 27th, Supreme Court. We must produce documents within 2 weeks by June 3rd. We must provide a deposition by June 13th. If we are forced to do this, it's going to hamstring our mission. It's going to force Gleason, the administrator, to be deposed. It's going to intrude upon sensitive communications within the executive branch and more. This court has rejected fishing expeditions before, and it should do the same here. A little bit more background saying other executive orders place advisory responsibilities on this. Trump delineated what those authorities were to DOGE. After DOGE was created, Crew submitted a FOIA request. That's Norm Eisen's group. They want tons of info, all communications between administration and staff. Less than 2 months later, they filed a lawsuit saying, oh, we didn't get the information. The district court said, well, you're not entitled to the requested injunction because you might lack access to this, but you might be an agency, right? If they're just advisors, you can't get it. But if they are an agency, then you can get it. And so they said, well, we have to find out what they're doing. What kind of work are they doing? Because if they're doing agency work, then we'll say we can go get the records. Those requests were massive, as you can see. A deposition of the head, identification of all the contracts, all the team members, all the details about their employment, and a bunch of other things. Now, the district court approved it, acknowledging the government had some protections, but that discovery was appropriate because the record did not confirm the executive order's language about independent authority. And so it granted most of the discovery requests, including the deposition and even interrogatories and more. The government filed a petition for a writ of mandamus. Now we're in the Supreme Court saying we're going to win. The district court granted expedited discovery in this, but we are exempt under FOIA. That backwards rulings gives them the information that they're trying to sue over. The order further requires the body head to undergo a deposition, and this is a serious misinterpretation of FOIA. They say agency is available under FOIA, and it's much more than just a merely advisory body. And this court long ago settled this as well. Even says the executive office does not include the office of the president, meaning FOIA excluded the president's immediate personnel and staff. And this has been expanded over the years. The answer is straightforward here. DOGE is obviously not an agency for FOIA. It's purely advisory. Those executive orders and the memo in DOGE instruct DOGE to do the following. Consult, that's all. and offer advice and recommendations, identify sources of federal funding, consult, again, coordinate with the DOGE teams, work with agency heads, access various systems, receive various kinds of reports, and more. These are advisory functions. None of those are the type of independent authority that could say this is an agency at all. But that's what the lower level judge said. And the lower level judge relied on a bunch of bizarre media reports from fake news people who incorrectly held that Elon was running the government. The alarming consequence of this calls for the Supreme Court to intervene. Forcing advisory bodies to disclose their communications was exactly what Congress wanted to avoid. This court has already repudiated that approach in other cases, including the Cheney case. And all of this is violating the separation of powers. DOGE is an advisory body located within the executive office of the president, just like Cheney had. Despite the need to proceed with caution here, the lower level court didn't. Like the everything under the sky discovery order in Cheney, this is the same. This covers basically everything. It compels DOGE to recount specific recommendations and would strike at the heart of the autonomy of the entire body. And just like other cases, we're going to win here. And the Court of Appeals screwed up pretty bigly. We are needing relief, especially in spite of the broad scope of the discovery. They're not mindful of the burdens of the executive branch at all. In fact, they're forcing us to turn over the substance of everything we do. It's difficult to imagine a more grievous intrusion and burden on the presidential advisory body than what you're seeing here. This information falls within the deliberative process. It's privileged by definition, and they can't have access to it. But this intrusive discovery also serves no legitimate purpose at all either. It's unnecessary to answer this question about whether DOGE is an agency. You don't need to look at this stuff. You can see from the memo. The district court defended this approach as necessary to understand whether DOGE is actually DOGE and issued the order accordingly. But this governing order is clear. DOGE teams are not a part of DOGE anyways. They're employees of the relevant agencies. So they're not understanding the structure at all. Neither is the judge. Courts of appeals made major problems, and we need relief from the Supreme Court, saying, in conclusion, you should grant a stay. D. John Sauer, the Solicitor General, respectfully requests this court grant an administrative stay, tolling the imminent deadlines that are coming up, as we saw. The lower court ordered us to provide responses and raise privileges within weeks, but these are fast approaching, and so stop this now. This court should stay these orders and stop this from happening. We also request an immediate stay of the other discovery orders, all respectfully submitted by D. John Sauer. So we'll see what the Supreme Court does on that. We've got some deadlines coming up from the lower level court, and their case law seems pretty good. If they can refer to Cheney and the court carved out a nice protection for Cheney and executive privilege, why would DOGE be any different? The reason they hate DOGE so much is because it was instrumental in stopping their grift, in particular with USAID, all the NGOs, the illegal invasion, and more. Here was Rubio explaining this to Congress.
I will say this, even with the reforms we put in place and what we're suggesting is changes to our foreign aid, we still will provide more foreign aid, more humanitarian support than the next 10 countries combined.
Wild.
Than the entire OECD, and far more than China. China doesn't do humanitarian aid. China does predatory lending. That's what Belt and Road Initiative is. That's what all of their aid. They have zero record of doing humanitarian aid in the world. And frankly, they don't know how to do it. They have no interest in doing it. What they're very good at is going into some country, making you a loan, and then holding that debt over your head. And that's what they continue doing. By the way, you have to hire a Chinese company to do it. So I don't agree with this assessment that there's no evidence whatsoever that China has either the capacity or the will to replace the U.S. in humanitarian assistance, in food deliveries, or in developmental assistance for that matter. We provide development assistance. They provide debt traps. And that's a point over and over again around the world that we've made, and we found receptive audiences to it. Now look, anytime you undertake reforms of this magnitude that needed to be made, you're going to have hiccups and you're also going to have controversy. But these reforms had to happen. At USAID, 12 cents of every dollar was reaching the recipient. That means that in order for us to get aid to somebody, we had to spend all this other money supporting this foreign aid industrial complex. We're going to find more efficient ways to deliver aid to people directly, and it's going to be directed by our regional bureaus, and it's going to sponsor programs that make a difference, and it's going to be part of a holistic approach to our foreign policy. And I look forward to engaging with this committee and the appropriators as well, and ensuring that we get to the right place on that. My last point I would make, and this is something I am very proud of. I believe, and I'm not besmirching anyone else, but I believe that the approach we have taken at the State Department, and frankly at USAID, but at State Department, to move forward reforms that involved intake from all of our partners, that required input from people within the building. Many of the reforms we've made were driven by people inside the building, many of whom have worked there for 20 or 30 years. And now we are engaged with Congress, both in the House and Senate, in a comment period where we're taking many of your comments and are making changes to our organizational proposals that we look forward to bringing back to you with an official congressional notification. And even after that, there'll be an opportunity to move forward. But the State Department had to change. I'm telling you, it was no longer at the center of American foreign policy. It had often been replaced by the National Security Council or by some other agency of government, when in fact we have these highly talented people, many of whom have served in multiple posts around the world and have a holistic view of how foreign policy needs to be conducted, that were being edged out. Because you know what? When I get a decision memo early on at the State Department and they would hand me these memos, there were 40 boxes on this piece of paper. That means 40 people had to check off, yes, okay, before it even got to me. That's ridiculous. That takes too long. That's why people said, don't use State Department. They take too long and it's too cumbersome. And any one of those little boxes didn't get checked, the memo didn't move up the chain. That can't continue. We can't move at that pace in this world. Events happen quickly, and we have to be able to move at the pace of relevance. And so I hope to work with you in a productive way to make that possible. You're not going to like all the changes, but I want you to know what the intent of the changes are. It is not to dismantle American foreign policy, and it is not to withdraw us from the world. Because I just hit 18 countries in 18 weeks. That doesn't sound like much of a withdrawal. And I see some of these foreign ministers, including individuals from Ukraine, more than I've seen my own children. And I talk to them at least 3 times a week. We are engaged in the world, but we're going to be engaged in a world that makes sense and that's smart. And that isn't about saving money. It is about ensuring that we are delivering to our people what they deserve, a foreign policy that makes America stronger, safer, and more prosperous.
And that's why they hate DOGE, they hate the State Department, they hate all these changes, because they were in the middle of that grift. They were siphoning off big chunks of money and power and resources from all of us for their ends. And so Rubio explained it very nicely there, right? DOGE is an advisory group. All those changes at the State Department with USAID and the rest of them, that was State Department business. They can go file some FOIAs for those things, but DOGE was just advisory. We're hopeful the Supreme Court will weigh in on this soon and issue the right response. We'll see what they come up with next. All right, so one final segment on the day, my friends. Then it's time to hear from you. The spitting lib arrested. They got her. Ed Martin attacked by this lunatic who then dragged her dog around. Well, she got charged. She got arrested. And we've got the announcement here from the DOJ. The district woman charged with assault for spitting on former interim U.S. Attorney Ed R. Martin Jr., who's amazing. And this woman's name is Emily Gabriella Summer. She's 32 years old. Think she'd know better. On the District of Columbia, she was arrested on a criminal complaint filed in the district court in connection with the May 8th incident during which she allegedly spit, it's on camera, U.S. Attorney Ed Martin while she was participating in a video recorded interview. There she is right there. Look at how mad she is. You can almost see the veins popping out of her neck. Lunatic. Says here, Summer is charged with 1 count of assaulting, resisting, or impeding a government official. The complaint was announced by Janine Pirro and acting U.S. Marshal Ron Carter of D.C. We'll read the complaint, but they tell us at 3:30 p.m., Ed Martin was conducting an interview. During the interview, Summer approached Martin and stated words to the effect of, "Who in the F are you?" Martin turned to face Summer. Summer then said, "Are you Ed Martin?" "You are Ed Martin." Then she lunged at Martin and spit on his shoulder. Summer then walked eastbound on D Street Northwest and yelled, "You're a disgusting man. F you, Ed Martin. My name is Emily Gabriella Summer, and you are served." She's crazy. Law enforcement went through identified the X account and all the things. Here was the actual video before we see her criminally charged and arrested.
And so we need to get really focused. How you doing? Oh, whoa.
You are a disgusting man.
You're a disgusting person.
And so
What's in that saliva? How many different problems are in there that now Ed Martin has to deal with? We don't know. But here is more on this because she got arrested. Here is the criminal complaint that was filed out in the District of Columbia. She'll probably demand a trial and get acquitted over there, but we'll see. Says Emily Gabriella Summer, criminal complaint. The complaint in this case, state the following is true to the best of my knowledge and belief. Signed off on here by U.S. Deputy Marshal Fletcher Vitch. Sending this one in. One count, 18 U.S. Code, Section 111A1, assaulting, resisting, impeding a government official. Now, there's a statement of facts that we'll read through, but this was the arrest warrant that was issued shortly after the complaint came in. She was picked up. The case was unsealed. Signed off on here by Matthew J. Sharbaugh, U.S. Magistrate Judge. Warrant came in, Washington, D.C., 5/22, and boom, it was executed. So the complaint has now been unsealed, and here is what it looks like from inside. The statement of facts says the below signed affiant is a criminal investigator and deputy U.S. Marshal assigned to the U.S. Marshal Service. Writing, I am Deputy U.S. Marshal with the U.S. Marshal Service, and I have been since 2010. I am currently assigned to the District of Columbia, where I'm assigned the collateral duty of District Protective Investigator. I've conducted numerous criminal investigations and received training in protective investigations as well. I am a criminal investigation under the law, and I'm employed to make arrests for any felony cognizable under the laws if I have reasonable grounds there was a felony committed. Completed a bunch of training with the ATF and a bunch of stuff, and for about 2 years, June 20 to 2022, full-time ATF Washington Field Office Division, numerous criminal investigations, violent crime, supervisory duties, all the stuff. Okay, lots of background. Now to this case. This affidavit is in support of an arrest warrant and is intended to establish probable cause for the arrest of Emily Gabriella Summer, the Spitter. This affidavit is not intended to convey all the facts, just establish cause, probable cause here. The following facts and circumstances were obtained through my independent investigation. Here we go. On May 8th, at approximately 3:30 p.m., 601 D Street Northwest in Washington, D.C., Edward R. Martin Jr. will be referred to hereinafter as Victim 1, was conducting a video recorded interview with A.A., a reporter affiliated with Newsmax at the time. Then V1 was interim U.S. attorney in D.C. and the director in D.C. There was also T.O. who was there, another reporter affiliated with NBC, who was also present for the interview. So multiple cameras there recording. During the interview, Suspect 1, later identified as Emily Gabriella Summer, approached Victim 1 and stated words to the effect of, "Who in the F are you?" Victim 1 turned to face Summer, Martin, and then Summer said words to the effect of, "Are you Ed Martin?" "You are Ed Martin." Then Summer lunged at V1 and hawktwad right on her shoulder. Summer then walked eastbound on D Street and yelled, "You're a disgusting man. F you, Ed Martin. My name is Emily Gabriella Summer. You are served." Look at how mad she is, man. Finger pointing and everything right there. Wow. Ed Martin doesn't even look perturbed at all. This is like, what a psycho. What kind of a psycho lunatic is this? Then she hawktwas right on him. Oh, disgusting. And then we see here, after the incident, law enforcement reviewed security camera footage from the exterior of the office, and it captures her walking away after spitting violently on him. So then investigators searched the name. She's like, well, she identified herself. That was easy. In law enforcement databases, they identified Emily Gabriella Summer with the date of birth of that, along with the following booking photo. Yeah, there she is. Now, Eurofient compared the booking photo, must have been arrested in another case for some other violent attack or something, who knows, to footage of the incident and noted consistencies in the jawline, hairline, eyebrows, and nose between the booking photo of Summer and the footage of suspect 1. Yep. Let's see. Yep, certainly looks like her. Very similar facial structure right there. Yep. And yep, there it is. Boom. Compare and contrast right there. Yep, same nose. Same chin right there. Lips look the same. Not glasses there. We got the little indent in the forehead right there. You see right there. Hair looks much the same. Even the same style, honestly. Does a little potel thing back there. Earrings look the same. The ears a little covered up here, but ears are like a fingerprint, so that kind of looks the same over there. Anyways, it's her. Busted. They got her. Investigators identified the ex of this person too. She was posting online. Emily Gabriella S. with a display name called Left. What? That's her name? Left Nipples? Left Nipples? Oh, gosh. And the URL. With the display name Left. Yeah, that's it right there. Okay. Sounds like an interesting person. Determined that Summer is likely the account holder of that account. On May 8th, from 6:03 p.m. to 6:10, her account made several posts related to the incident. So Ed Martin posted this on May 8th. He says, I was thrilled to meet the prosecutors, investigators from this section. Their hard work and tenacity are paying off in the country and around the world. I'm proud to have them on my team. Ed Martin reposted that from his personal account, it looks like. He says, great people there. Then this lib spitter says, Ed, that was me that spit in your face today in front of your not USDC for DC courthouse. That absolutely spit in your face on camera. Hi, hello. A pleasure to hawk a dehydrated, pithy white foam spit into your face. I only apologize that this city left me so dehydrated and unable to get water that I couldn't produce more to stain and drip down your face. Poop emoji. What a psycho. So she continued. Ed posted another video, another post, May 7th, says shooting a child is a problem. Guy gets 156-month prison term. Ed says make DC great again and safe again. She posted the same thing. Copy and pasted it. Didn't even have the creativity to write it again. Ed posted something else. He says, that happened. Such stories of inside. Copy and pasted it. Dropped it again because she's nuts. Same thing here. Ed post from 2012. Good times here. We support Ed Martin for Republican AG. Fight, fight, fight. Emily says, I spit in your face, Ed. How do you like it? Same thing here, right? She's just dropping it on everything he posts. What a nut. And looks like it's the same copy and paste there. Same copy and paste there. She's just blowing him up. Gone nuts. Now, Eurofient is aware that Ed's personal account is called Eagle Ed Martin. The Emily account contains a profile picture that is similar to known photographs of Summer. Right, there you go. So there, yep, kind of looks like her. Says investigators queried law enforcement databases and identified Summer's home address. On May 15th, investigators interviewed witness 2 at Summer's residence. Investigators showed W2 a still image from the security camera footage, and witness 2 identified Summer and confirmed she lives there. Oh, I wonder who that was. Like her roommate busted her. Do you know this person? Oh yeah, it's my roommate. She's freaking crazy. She lives here? Yeah. She spit on people all the time. She's spitting all over the place. She's nuts. All right. You arresting her? Perfect. Yeah. She lives here. As such, Eurofient submits that there is probable cause to charge Emily with violation of the law. Signed by Fletcher in a great filing there. tracked her down. She admitted it, not really the crime of the century. She's like, hi, I'm Emily. I spit in your face. So we'll see how that works out for her. This is the court docket. See if there was anything new that happened today. Nope, that's what we got. All exculpatory materials must be provided to her, as is pretty standard, but she has now been picked up. Now, Ed Martin, in another case, this is another case that we've talked a lot about here. This is the Jane and John Doe's case, because these government employees, remember, they suffered emotional damage, and they're so scared because they might have to go get real jobs. So they're suing, and FBI agents are part of this, and they don't want their names to be exposed. And so they sued to try to stop Ed Martin from identifying them, essentially. And then they submitted another response. Remember, Ed gave an interview, and then they flipped out about that. And the DOJ filed a response saying, you guys are ridiculous. That's not what Ed said at all. So this is in defense of Ed Martin. They say, all right, Norm Eisen's groups who are suing here on behalf of John and Jane Doe's are totally wrong. They're trying to misquote Ed Martin. He, in the full context, plainly expresses his commitment to following the law. And he made these comments on the last day of his previous employment, and so they could be read in tension with the department's previously submitted discovery responses. And so they lack standing. Their claims should be dismissed, and they can't even complain about this because they shouldn't even be in this court in the first place. Saying, first of all, this court should reject the blatant mischaracterization of Ed Martin's comments. Here's what he said. On the question of weaponization, he talks about the question about the DOJ manual. And Ed Martin gives us his whole response here. Says, well, I'd have to look at what the provision is. Chuck Grassley, lots of context there. Reviewing the full thing, a couple things become clear. He explicitly states that any review will be conducted in compliance with the law. He's not illegally targeting anyone. He says we're going to do things correctly. We're going to be thoughtful and serious about how the systems work. And this is a mischaracterization of him. And he does not support their false assertion that they're in regular contact with J6 defendants either. He said, we're not releasing this information because that's not how this works. But regardless of what Ed said, there is no case or controversy that is ripe for this court's adjudication, and so you should dismiss your claims as we've already articulated in our motion to dismiss, signed off on by Dimitar P. Georgiev, defending Ed Martin against the smears from Norm Eisen's team. Now, elsewhere, in addition to spitting libs, we also have other more serious attacks, which are in the form of shooting other innocent people in the back, walking down the street, visiting museums. And we're asking ourselves about the lefties on this one because they're having a hard time having this conversation on their show, saying that there were 2 people shot and the person who did the shooting was screaming, "Free Palestine." But how can they be upset about that since they love guys like Luigi Mangione? Very complicated situation for them to be in since they've aligned themselves with murderers. But the New York Post said, accused DC Jewish Museum terrorist Elias Rodriguez posted "Death to America," praised Luigi Mangione in his unhinged post before he shot these 2 people outside the Jewish Museum, screamed "Free Palestine," gunned down 2 Israeli embassy diplomats, said "Death to America, death to Israel, I voted for Hamas," and is nuts. Federal investigators are working to confirm that an account is tied to him. Accused of executing 2 people, Yaron Lishchinsky and Sarah Lynn Milgram, as they left an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum last night. Post on the X account also praised Luigi Mangione. We'll see what Taylor Lorenz has to say about this. She probably loves this guy too. Praises political violence and includes thinly veiled death threats to Jews. Happy New Year, death to Israel, he says. There you go. So that's that guy. And Pam Bondi showed up and was commenting about this in response to this, along with many others in the administration. And here's what that sounded like.
Everyone in Washington, D.C., state, local, and federal agencies, and our great U.S. Attorney, Jeanine Pirro, who will be prosecuting this case, will be doing everything in our power to keep all citizens safe, especially tonight our Jewish community. We will follow the facts, we will follow the law, and this defendant, if charged, will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
Yeah, he's been charged, and the snippets of the complaint are brutal and disgusting. I mean, he shot them, reloaded, they were moving around, went up, shot him again. And CNN is having a hard time talking about that because they can't just say, like, murder's bad. They have to, like, well, I mean, we don't, like, not all Palestinians are like this, and not all the people who are on this side of the aisle who are making excuses for Luigi Mangione and making other excuses for violent attacks, who've been doing this for decades now, having a hard time talking about it, as you can see in this bizarre exchange.
As you go forward, with what you have seen, can you give us any sense, because you said you looked the shooter in the eyes, can you give us any sense of what you saw in him as he was sort of getting help and people were tending to him as if he too was a victim of seeing this?
Yeah, to be clear, I heard about that part because we were in the secure room when he initially walked in. I just saw him screaming and then being handcuffed. But what I saw in his eyes, I mean, I went to Columbia for grad school, and I saw the same thing in his eyes as I saw in the eyes of all the protesters at Columbia. Nothing different between him and them.
But they did not create this horrific shooting. They did not, they didn't shoot.
They gave permission. They gave the permission. And they've called for this. They have called for Intifada revolution, which is the same thing he yelled last night.
Do you worry that there will be a conflation, though, of the two, those people who are speaking their mind, who really care about what is happening in Gaza, and those people who are like this person who did this horrific shooting, who intend to do harm?
A conflation. I mean, they are calling for Intifada. At Columbia University, they call for Intifada constantly. They're not quietly, they're loud. They're loud. You can hear it. They make recordings of themselves. So what's the difference?
Are you afraid?
Yes.
What will
We're
you do
all
about
afraid.
that?
Everyone should be afraid.
What are you doing to try to make yourself feel safer?
Well, you just go on and live your life. I'm a New Yorker. I remember 9/11. You can't let them make you be afraid. You have to go on. You have to live your life, and hopefully your government does things to protect you. Last night, our government failed us.
Jonathan Epstein, I know that they are going forward with this. There is expected to be charges in this case. We will see what happens, but I know you'll be watching, and we'll talk to you again as this goes forward. Thank you so much, and I'm sorry that you had to witness what you did. Kate?
All right, so
as you go
interesting
forward,
exchange. Seemed a little bit painful. They're trying to figure out which narrative to go. It's like, well, it's bad, but not all that bad. And some of the rhetoric, they always talk about rhetoric, right? Rhetoric. Like they censored all of us for disinformation, said we were going to get people killed and all the things when we were talking about COVID and all the stuff. But then when their side does, it's like, it's not that rhetoric anymore. It's just kind of one random person on the left. But Andy NGO, he's the person who flagged this for us. And it begs the question, we talked about this on the members only stream this morning too, but this dude has been around all of these entities for a long time. It's BLM, it's Palestine, it's communist, it's anti-white. And then poof, activated, goes, takes out a couple of people. And the question is, who's funding all of this? Like why, who, oral history researcher for the history makers, the digital repository for the Black experience. And I don't know if he's black or not. Doesn't look black to me. Elias Rodriguez. But he's getting paid for that? Like, where's this money coming from? Amazon's whitening of Seattle is structurally racist, says Rodriguez, living in Amazon. There he is at a BLM rally doing the same stuff. So wild situation there. Rest in peace to those two people who lost their lives by a coward who shot them in the back. Pathetic. And of course, the libs are unhinged. They've just gone mental. And a lot of their party wants more of it, endorses it, celebrates it. I think many people will call that guy a hero, just like they did Luigi Mangione. Because for them, the ends justify the means. And as long as they get a little shock of dopamine, they think that's a good way to run a nation. So disgusting behavior. We'll keep our eye on all of this madness. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. Well, what a beautiful day it has been. and a beautiful stream. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about today. Bunch of deportation updates. So we have a standing order, which is basically saying that people who've already had their cases adjudicated now get an automatic second attempt as long as they file a petition for a writ of habeas corpus. No problem. The judge will just pause all of the government's attempts to remove them in closed cases. And we learned about who these people are in another case where Marcos D. Charles explained that TTP, first degree murderer, this other dude, assaulter of, bad stuff, fondling children, all these people. The judge says, give them attorneys, give them second hearings, reopen their immigration cases, allow them to file new claims under torture claims, and give them special privileges. Read through all of that and got to see how insane a lot of these judges have become. Then we turned our attention to the Supreme Court. We saw that D. John Sauer, on behalf of DOGE, is fighting to stop Norm Eisen's organization called CREW from getting access to internal deliberation materials, discovery documents that are within the purview of the advisory DOGE team, not a part of any agency. We'll see what the Supreme Court does on that. We've got some deadlines coming up there. Then we talked about the spitter who spit on Ed Martin and who has now been charged with assault. Look at this lunatic. And we don't know what she'll end up doing. I mean, I think there's a good chance she could set her case for trial, fight it, probably not get a jury trial, just have a bench trial in front of a judge. I don't know, maybe she can get a jury trial. Maybe the judge will give her a jury trial and she can try it in front of a jury of her peers. And then they'll acquit her because that's how nuts they are in DC. We talked about that. She did get charged, read through the facts of the case, saw the photos. They matched her up. She admitted it, not the crime of the century, but talked about that. Talked about the shooting last night. And that lunatic has been charged, just like Luigi Mangione. We'll see if the left rallies around them. But now, my friends, it is time to hear from you. And very grateful to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for subscribing if you haven't already. Thanks for liking this video on your way out if you're about to head out. We appreciate you. Oh, yeah. And we've got Eric's House virtual tour next weekend, May 31st. Link is down in the description below. Your boy's going to be hosting that. So Eric's House, nonprofit organization dedicated to helping and healing people who've lost a loved one due to suicide, overdose, or tragic death. We'll be doing a roundup on that. And I'll be sharing a little bit of my story. So thanks for registering. Thanks for supporting us and Eric's House. Links in the description below. But all right, my friends, thank you so much for these donos and for supporting our work with your contributions. We could not be here or do any of this without you. Very grateful for you. And thank you to our mods for clipping for us on the day. John Donut clipping for us. Carrie B, K Bean this morning. Here we go. Yes, look at this kitty. Anybody feel like this today? Patiently waiting for Friday. That poor cat. Somebody just boop that cat on the nose. He'll cheer up. All right, thank you for that. John McGarvey sharing this one. 34 months as a membo, John? Man, that's amazing. Oh, John has the South African president over there. Hey, Rob, my stupid Congress lady is going to run for governor. And we are going to get a Democrat governor. Ugh, who is that? Who is that person, John? You're teasing us here with that. I'm sorry to hear that. Who's it going to be? Are you in New York? I don't know. All right, what's up? Larry865 says, here's a great one. Supreme Court confusion over from AmericanMind.org. Have not read that one. It's about birthright citizenship. Just as an erroneous view of birthright citizenship has seeped into our political psyche, so too has an erroneous view of judicial supremacy. Oh man, that sounds great. I've been on a little rabbit hole on that lately. Like the Supreme Court. Anyways, we'll leave that. Thank you for the article. Ravicus, what's up? This is the real Norm Eisen. That's what he looks like at night when he takes his mask off. Yeah, he's not a good dude. Thank you for that one. Happy J Day. What's up, Jay? Thank you. JB in the house. JB bringing in 10 membo friends. Thank you, JB. Gordon Tracy's coming in. Mick Bradley. What's up, Bob Gable? Fet 420's here. Just Jess, welcome. Robert Lane. Purple AJ 1331. April M. Paulie Epp and Ron Little. Gifted membos courtesy of JB. Thank you, JB. Welcome, new membo friends. Nancy Mace. She's running for governor? What state is that? She going to win that, you think? I don't know. All right, what's up? Ron Little. Hey, Jennifer, Membo for 28 months. Adam Coleman of Wrong Speak will be on OLP after Rob. Off-label podcast. Adam Coleman of Wrong Speak will be OLP after Rob. Amazing. That sounds like a good one. Jennifer, 28 months as a Membo. Check it out. Off-label podcast. We'll send people over there today. Thanks for the heads up. Jennifer. Sandy. The next order we will see will be shorter. It will say, anyone, anywhere, stop everything, everywhere. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Trump is, I'm just waiting for them to just invalidate the presidency. Trump is not the president. Here's why, because he's bad. January 6th, there was an insurrection. Everything he did is invalid because of democracy, right? Something like that. South Carolina, you think she can win South Carolina governorship? So I think that's what John is saying. She's going to run and then a Democrat is going to win. Interesting. Thank you, Sandy. Did not know that. Hey, Jeff Monhe. This is outrageous. Yeah, there were several of those today. Yeah, several of those. There was a good ruling from the Supreme Court that we did not hit today. We'll probably cover that tomorrow. But it wasn't all as annoying as what we talked about today. Chubby says, Chubby Stubby, Roberts doesn't want judges to be impeached. He better stand up, do his blasted duty, and get this garbage under control. They're really leaving no other recourse at this point. If only our deadbeat baby daddy Republican majority Congress could stop fiddling with each other in the back rooms and start doing something too. Rant is over. Sorry, been a long, rough day. Sorry about that, Chubby Stubby. I feel you, man. It's frustrating. Why do illegals who are murderers and child abusers get extra protections by our judges? It's not due process. That's fake crap. They've had plenty of due process. We saw it. The judges are trying to create another legal anchor, and they're doing it for partisan reasons. John Allen, what's up? Hey, Rob and all you watchers. Hope you don't mind me soliciting for Vientikis. Not at all. He finally finished book 5 of The Last Enchantress. Is it okay if we link those books for those who may want to get it? Or maybe someone can post it in YouTube or Rumble? I'm fine with that. It's actually a good series for being written by a grumpy old bacon crazy man. Have a great weekend and get the book. So you can check it out at Amazon. Vientikis used to help us out on the mod squad, but has since moved on to become a full-time author, writing books day after day. Book 5, The Last Enchantress. Man, I think the last time we talked about V and his books, he had 3. It's up to 5 now. Check it out. Amazon. Look it up. The Last Enchantress from our friend Vientikis. The Rubos. Good to see you, John. Rubos says, breaking, a traffic court judge in Minneapolis just issued a stay on Trump's administration's revocation of Harvard students' exchange visitor program. Judge, oh, here's one. Judge, I'm a doofus, originally from Timbuktu, ruled that the revocation of certification hurts his fee-fees. Yeah. So that's funny. A traffic court judge did that. Yeah, because why not? Traffic court judges are now the president, too. It will be a matter of time on that. I saw that letter came out from Nome saying, Harvard, your visas for foreign students are revoked, which I'm in total support of. Completely. And I have a question about that in general. I mean, why do we have so many visas in the first place in general? And why are foreign students taking up our seats, American seats in our best universities? It makes no sense at all. So fully support it. And there'll be lawsuits about it. And I'm sure Harvard will be a part of those. Savage Studios. If Bondi and the dozens of volunteer law firms pro bono hours don't rein in these rogue judges via flooding appeals, how do you see this playing out? Well, I guess, it's a very broad question, but I think that it depends on the issues, right? Some of these will win, some of these will lose. We'll have some good outcomes, we'll have some bad outcomes. I think that, some issues will be decided in our favor, some will not. So it's just going to be a battle. It's like every issue, every court is its own game in a way. So how many points can you put on the board? And we have the federal government, okay? So Pam Bondi and the DOJ should be able to obliterate all of these nonprofits, okay? It shouldn't even be close. I don't want to hear the government that has unlimited money, unlimited resources, has people who've been there for decades, has a major home field advantage getting blown out by Norm Eisen and Mark Elias. Like, that's pathetic. We should not be losing any of these cases. We should not be making any of these bonehead mistakes. We should not be making any of these admissions about, oh, we made a mistake here or there. There's always an argument to say that you didn't make a mistake. And we would like to see better out of the DOJ, but they should have, it's like David versus Goliath. They should have like 15 Goliaths. It's the federal government. So if they're going to be getting beaten by like Mark Elias and these guys, that's on them. Hey, what's up, Rob? GB attorney says, I'm taking this case to a higher court than the Supreme Court, a lower district court. Yeah, and I think the Supreme Court might even agree with you because they gave some of the biggest decisions back down to the Fifth Circuit. They said, can you guys fix this for us? We don't want to deal with this because we're too busy. And then they gave it back down to the Fifth Circuit. And the Fifth Circuit says, Judge Ho's like, you guys are a-holes, by the way, for scolding our lower level judge. Judge, you did a great job. Hey, Tony, hey, Munkets, we fixed it. I went and added you. Says, I can use this now. Prayers for Lenny's mom. Sorry you had a problem, Tony, hey, Munkets, but we fixed it, baby. Glad to see you back. Thanks for being here for 25 months. Good to see you. Hey, Jim tells you. Hey, Membo for 2 months. Thank you, Jim. First month's the hardest. Gets easier from there. Says, I really love your content. You should be on Fox News. Yeah, thank you for that. That's a nice endorsement. I think you're right. Did you hear him, Greg Gutfield? Thank you, Jim. Maybe one day, we'll see. What's up, Da Hook? I don't know that we could do a permanent show over there because I like live streaming with you. And that's not this, it's not quite that. But it'd be fun to pop in there and make an appearance at some point. What's up, Da Hook? Hey, release from prison because California law made life sentences for minorities unconstitutional. Is that right? Man convicted of a 1994 murder of a German tourist is to be released. Yeah, because life sentence for a minor unconstitutional. There you go. There he is again. There you go again. Chat with me says, breaking. Local state fair judge ruled all EOs signed by Trump invalid due to not being signed by an auto pen. Local state fair judge. Yeah. All fired employees must return the job with back pay. All previously deported aliens shall be returned. All secretary positions in the Trump cabinet who will now be filled by aliens who have been deported. That's right. And you have to allow illegals into your home. In fact, they're their homes now. Your home is now the illegal alien home. Hey, Alice Elizabeth. I tried to comment on the Abrego article in the New York Times. Amazing. So I was going to cover that today. It's pretty tedious, and we've covered almost all of it already. But the New York Times wrote an article today about Iraz Ruvani and about the battle over the deportation of Kilmar. I don't think it was a good article. I think we already covered it. Somebody mentioned it this morning. I was going to cover it, but it's basically what we saw. It's Iraz. We didn't learn anything new. They told us about the battle between Iraz, the fired DOJ attorney who was dead wrong in his analysis, and the other side. And they made him out to be a hero. He's not a hero. He's a bad lawyer, first of all, and a dishonest attorney who poisoned the entire case and was fired after doing his job. Anyways, Alice says, I tried to comment on the Abrego article in the Times. I put in the withholding number and told people to look it up. It says Guatemala. My comment was not accepted, obviously. Somehow there's got to be a way to facilitate communication between the two sides. Yeah, Alice, they don't want your communication. That's a true statement. Anybody could read the order. Iraz Ruvani, the moron lawyer who was dishonest, could have made the argument, the correct argument, but he didn't. Went in, folded for Judge Zenas, and really hurt the administration. I think it was a traitorous thing to do. But he's a lawyer, and that's my interpretation, and I'm allowed to interpret it this way. But it was the wrong argument. It's why he got fired. And they don't want to hear the truth, right? They've won this one, by the way. They've got the popular culture believing that the withholding of removal was for El Salvador. They've won that one. Our side failed. That's why it makes me so freaking mad about it. Thank you, Sheila. Thank you for that, Alice Elizabeth. Vegetable meatball. Hey, Sheila Poo says, past time for SCOTUS to rein in these district court judges. Might be time for POTUS to give him the bird. He is the president. We might be getting closer and closer to that. All these different discovery orders and all these different things. Just say, no, here's what you get. Hold me in contempt. I don't care. Do whatever you want. The question will be, this is why I think our work is so important here. It's to hold the line on these legal battles, because We don't want it to move towards legitimacy in impeachment proceedings. Like Trump is violating the Constitution or there's a constitutional crisis. No. The judges are doing this. Trump is not doing this at all. Trump has the mandate of the American people. And we need to hold the line on that fight because the media is complicit with the liars like Iraz Ruvani, the Mark Eliases, the Norm Eisens. They have a lot of power still. Remember, they've been in charge for a long time. Even, those billions of dollars that were funneled over to the NGOs and all of those things. Like it's infrastructure they've been building for years. I still don't want to hear about, the DOJ not having resources or something like that. I don't care how big they are. You're the government. Uncle Bozy says, if the SCOTUS doesn't rein in the lower court judges who are clearly usurping Article 2 powers and authority, what's to be done? Here's an idea. Trump should sign an executive order that all judicial orders concerning immigration must be reviewed and authorized by valid by the DOJ before any stay, injunction, or order is issued by any federal court of any level, including the Supreme Court. See how the judicial branch likes having their authority usurped. Yeah. And then they would invalidate that. And it's, this battle between the courts and separation of powers. And we say what the law is, Marbury versus Madison, all the things. I mean, I like it. I think a lot of what we're going to be battling over is political. It's not as much legal. It's the court will get in line when the public is mad enough at the court. Then Roberts will start to say, my legacy is evaporating before me and I'm wrecking the power of the court. They're doing it right now. We're watching it. But we have the responsibility of making sure that when they say Kilmer was illegally removed, we say, no, he wasn't. It was Guatemala. Here's the order. Go to watchyourlodge.com. It's right there, all free. Here's the whole file. Oh, you were wrong. You got lied to. You got duped. Just like they lied to you about Biden, just like they lied to you about Kamala, just like they lied to you about COVID, just like they lied about everything. They're lying about Kilmar. They're lying about these deportations. They're criminals who've already had full adjudications under Article 2. Constitution's fully complied with. These are hack judges. And they should be treated accordingly. They should be treated with disdain like other politicians, not like saviors in robes. What's up, Ravicus? 2016 to 20, Dems weaponized the Congress. 2020 to 24, Dems weaponized the executive branch. 24 to 28, it's now the courts. When is enough enough? Should not the party be forced to disband at this point? Well, I mean, I think the Democratic Party is largely, in shambles right now, but we're dealing with the courts. So how do you deal with the courts? Congress does something, there's impeachments, or the population just gets mad enough that the court realizes that their power is, in jeopardy. Hey, Mikhail Heim, it's Heim time, says politicians interfering with federal law enforcement need to be charged with interference of federal officers and their DOC sing when it happens. Bye-bye, empty-headed Tennessee blonde. Yeah, they sound like they just got back from like a club or something. Yeah. We're fighting nice, yeah. Okay, great job leading your constituents. Politicians interfering should be charged. She might. Now, we saw that LaMonica was charged for assault and impeding. And Baraka was close to being charged, but maybe some others will be. Thank you, Mikhail. It's time. Sheila Poo says, I think coordinated rallies in support of deportation of all illegal aliens with ginormous crowds. Maybe that would get the court's attention. Rallies might do it. Rallies outside the Supreme Court might do it. Peaceful rallies. Thank you, Sheila Poo. I don't know. I don't know that they'll care much about the rallies. I think that if you start to see, inching towards like ignoring the courts, like the population starts to say, just do it. Just ignore whatever that order was. Like once you get to that threshold, then the court's going to go, uh-oh. Because then they lose their enforcement abilities. Mikhail, hey, I'm praying that these judges start getting suspended pending investigation for bad conduct. That's another thing too. Yeah, maybe just indict one of these judges once you find out that they're totally corrupt. We'll see where it goes. Hey, Brian Hinkle says, I've smoked a lot of briskets in my day, but that woman in that passenger seat was smoking a lot of briskets. I think you're right. Mama Pillow, what's up, Mama Pillow? 22 months, Mama Pillow. That's a long time. Thanks for being here for so long. Says, judges trying to get info to give to our enemies. Yeah, the judge was literally like paint by numbers. okay, here, give them this time, 15 days, 10 days to do this. Make sure they file a claim against torture. Give them lawyers. Give them the ACLU team. Make sure they've got plenty of time. And give them everything they want. Fred Pedamonte says, Andrew Branca read the Judge Ho opinion and went off. Good for him, man. Shout out to Andrew Branca. Yeah, it was a good opinion. We read that yesterday, too. It was a good one. Sportfish, what's up? Breaking huge. Supreme Court allows Trump to fire the labor board members in 6-3 decision. Ooh, party line split. Great. Yeah, I saw that was breaking like as we were starting the show. 6:10 p.m. Yeah, I saw it was breaking right away. So we'll probably come back on that and see what that decision says tomorrow. Thanks for flagging it for us, Fred. Hey, what's up, Bullwinkle Sprinkles? Oh, that was for Sportsfish. Bullwinkle Sprinkles. Why would a gay dude be in fear in Guatemala? I don't know. Didn't USAID send millions of dollars in aid to Guatemala for sex change operations and gender-affirming care? I thought Guatemalans loved the LGBTQ plus XBI alidocious 2QX people. I'm confused. Yeah, it is confusing. What were all those like tranny comic books for? I thought those were also in Central America. Wasn't there like, you know, pronouns are us or something and everybody could go pick out their pronouns for the day? I don't know. But why is your uncomfortableness when you're going to the grocery store America's problem? Like, why is that reasonable fear that we should care at all about? I don't think we do. Sheila Poo says, my understanding of DOGE is they reviewed the info and gave recommendations, but the individual agencies with responsibility over the actions decided whether to perform those actions. Exactly. Yeah, just like consultants. Elon comes in. This looks antiquated and bad. Here are some recommendations to do that I would do. Do it if you want or don't. But the actual implementation of it came from the people with the power to implement those things. So if Norm Eisen and those crew folks want that information, they can go get it from the agencies, but they don't have access to DOGE to get it. Doan, what's up? Doan Burrill says, digging for discovery of DOGE is Dems jumping out in front of Ed Martin's investigation of the president auto pen. Interesting. So it's like a kind of a counterattack. We're going to get your info while Ed's getting our info. Yeah. Good comment there, Doan. We're looking forward to seeing what Ed comes up with. We also talked this morning, both houses of Congress are now investigating the auto pen scandal. That's going to be great. Hey, Doan, Lefty really doesn't want all of the dirty details. Is that the spitter? Yeah, good questions on that one. Sheila Poo, finally seeing arrest for these wacko lib assaulters. They finally got her. She made it pretty easy for them, but they got her. Hey, Mikkel, isn't her action battery should be a higher charge for federal officials? Yeah. So, battery, assault, it's a physical contact. So depending on how you define the crimes, I think you could make arguments for both of them, but shouldn't be a higher charge for federal officials. Sometimes you'll see that, like prosecutors, if you attack a prosecutor, they write themselves special rules. I'm a public figure, so it elevates it from like a class 5 felony to a class 4 felony. Uncle Bozy, at some point, the Supreme Court is going to have to decide whether it will honor its constitutional role and duties and rein in the rogue judges or protect its turf and throw in with lower court judicial coup against the executive branch. Honestly, I have no clue which path it will take, but at some point, the Supreme Court will have to get off the fence, like it or not. Hey, Mikkel Heim says Emily is just begging for attention. She's just so lonely and she just wants someone to think she's special. So she's just copying and pasting. Post, post, post. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Pay attention to me. Glenn F. was gifted a membo. Hey, and found your content along, but now I'm a paying membo. Thank you, Glenn. Just wanted to say thank you for your time, knowledge, and effort. Glenn, thank you. Thank you for the very nice dono. And that's the idea, kind of want to hook you, get you in here. Thank you, Glenn, for signing up. We really appreciate it. Thank you for the nice dono. We could not do it without you. I'm really grateful for that. So hopefully I convey that enough. Thank you, Glenn. I'm really grateful for you. Thanks for signing up. Sheila Poo. Hey, good point. Can she be charged with cyber stalking or harassment? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I think they probably picked the best charge, and they probably picked like a non-jury charge because they filed it in DC. Something pretty simple that they can prove easily without having to go overboard. Ed Martin could add stalking to his complaint. She sent a bunch of memos. Yeah, a bunch of posts, maybe. Run Mead. Summer says, there's arrest, GoFundMe, get a lawyer, settle, keep the Delta, and become a Democrat hero. Probably go out to dinner with Jen Psaki. Leonard, hey, 2 innocents were murdered in D.C. yesterday. The corrupt Dems and the corrupt media are not outraged. No, they're trying to make sure that you know that it's not all pro-Palestinian people who are like that. So just so you know. Hey, Curtis Bartle, 5 membos. Thank you, Curtis, for bringing them in. Churs, OC is here. Churs, we got Kelly R. What's up, Mark Salmond? I follow Paul and R. Golay. Gifted membos, courtesy of Curtis Bartle. Thank you, Curtis. Hey, Teresa Pagano. Teresa Pagano just joined this morning. Just figured out where the chat is. LOL. Great to see you, Teresa. Yeah, definitely a new name, new photo, nice new baby. Great to see you, Teresa. Thanks for joining up on Locals. Grab the stream from this morning. We'll see you tomorrow, too. Hey, it's Heim time, baby. Mikael Heim, what's up? Bringing in Vegas Woman 702, which is the area code out there. Person in chat number 6. Juanice Jernigan is here. Terry Hurst and Janice Camp. Gifted membos, courtesy of It's Heim time. Mikael Heim in the house. Sheila Pooh, thank you, Sheila. Saying thanks to all those gifting, and thank you, Sheila, for supporting us today. Great comments today. Appreciate those. Milo Phone Bill says, there are 185 different visa types to come to the U.S. legally. It's certainly not a lack of visa types. Yeah. And it feels like they just give them out like Skittles for any reason. Doan, hey, lefty judges whipping Dookie at the walls, hoping it'll stick. Got it. Whipping Dookie at the walls, hoping it'll stick. Yeah, and then some of it does. Like some of it actually does stick. And if it doesn't stick permanently, it at least sticks for a couple months before it finally washes off. It's disgusting. Tony Hay Muckets. Thank you, Tony Hay, for the dono. Glad you're back in the chat. Don't know what happened, but you're here. You made it. Thank you, Tony Hay. 5 more membos coming courtesy of Tony Hay. D. Martinez, reality is hard. What's up, Mike Hall? Random joining us, and Archlord Dune Rider. Gifted membos, courtesy of Tony Hay Munkets in the house. What's up, Mikael Heim? Hey, I hear you can contact SCOTUS on their site. We can start getting people to write, asking them nicely to end the lower court nonsense. Yeah. I'm sure you can. I'm sure they're not going to read it about anything you send in. But I think, they're like people. So if they start to see the momentum shift, like in the Supreme Court poll numbers crash and the population gets really sick of them, it'll matter. Hey, Viva Las Vegas is here, bringing in 5 new membos. Vegas Woman 702. Bringing in Jeanette Champion, Robin the Songbird, Coffee and K-Dramas, Chuck S, WJ4K here, and Dead Already. Gifted membos, courtesy of Vegas Woman 702. Thank you, Vegas Woman. Hey, Boom Shakalaka also became a membo. Thank you, Boom Shakalaka. Haven't heard that in a long time. Great to have you. Sandy, we need constructive ways to make it clear we are losing faith in the entire court system. I have many ideas. It is important to approach it from positivity. Anything with a hate-filled origin will only be hateful. Come with love for our country instead of hate for these judges. Protests create mob mentality and breed violence. And I think there's some truth to that, Sandy, too. It's it forces and causes people to dig in. It's actually, I think, one of the first principles in how to win friends and influence people. Never criticize, condemn, or complain, right? It's like the first rule in that book by Dale Carnegie. Great book. Because people never receive it, no matter what you do. And the example he uses is like a mob boss, right? At the end of the life, mob boss kills dozens of people, drugs, debauchery, all the things. You ask the mob boss, why did you do all of this right before the death penalty? They say, it's the best I knew how to do. It's the only thing I could do. Trying to live my life as best I could, given my circumstances and my conditions. So nobody ever thank you for calling me a stupid moron, jerk, partisan hack. I'm guilty of that, by the way, right? We rip these judges left to right here. But I think as you mentioned, like the better strategy long-term is to point out where I'd say the legitimate failings are, but not out of an interest, not come and attack them out of partisanship per se, but out of love of country. And if you can communicate that, it's, I think, from a more wholesome place. And I feel like there's authenticity to that is more persuasive than not. So it's good comment. Thank you, Sandy. And X, thank you, X, for your comments. Let's say hello to our friends on X on the day. Then we'll wrap it up for our after party. We got a couple of comments on X. Energy Synergy. What's up, IREX? Great to see you. Says, this is how you president. Perhaps Trump is deporting the wrong criminals. Lottie says, this judge was appointed in 24, and that appointment should be investigated. What's up, NC Brit? Jay is in the house. Kim Willander. Great to see our friends on X over there. Hyundai, Kim, what's up? And Concessa. Great to see our friends on X. Nice to see you over there. All right, so my friends, we will leave it there on the day. It has been a beautiful Thursday. Of course, tomorrow is going to be a Friday. We're excited about that. We are going to come back, of course, to get into it. Members, stick around. YouTube friends, refresh the channel homepage. We'll say what's up for a little bit. Locals friends, hang tight. Don't have to change anything. And we'll be back very shortly. Before we leave it for the day, my friends, thanks to our mods and meme smiths who keep things nice and orderly and beautiful around here. John, we appreciate you. Donut, Carrie B, K Bean. We got Janek, Dog Digger. Neuro D, I think, is helping today on Locals. I'm sorry, on Rumble. And we appreciate everybody who helps make this show work. We're grateful for you. But we will pause there for the evening. We'll leave it there on the night. Of course, tomorrow, we're coming back to get into it again. It's going to be Friday. And in order to do it appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.